Hello, everyone, and welcome to the broadcast. I'm newtmechanist, and today we're going to be continuing our game dev project. We're going to be starting our transition, the bulk of our transition to a C# based project. Last time we tested it out, we switched over some of the core performance areas to test some of it, but we're at a point now where all of the old wiring is getting in the way of introducing the new wiring. So we're just going to rip everything out. Before we do, let's check in with the kitties. We have Ember across from the keyboard. We have Sherbet in his little house. And then we have Mason and Sammy on the bed. Switch over. Let's zoom in on Sherbet. There he is. Okay. So I've created a new branch for this so that I have a save point. A very distinct save point. Might not be visible where you're looking or how you're looking at it, but we have a whole bunch of stuff going on here. Left side, this is our existing code tree, and some of our C# files we have like a CS prefix on them so that they weren't name conflicting with existing stuff. We're going to take all of this old content and we're going to move it. We're going to close code for a moment. We're going to pull everything over to like an archive folder so I can still look at it while we're going through this to find references. But we're going to almost start from scratch. One of the first areas we're going to touch accordingly is core here. This is just the getting started logic, and I still want to have this pattern. We won't go fully into the pattern to begin with, but we are going to kick things off through the core folder. We'll then have a child tree that is the game tree. How we were doing it is that core has references to a couple of scenes. One is the game scene and the other is the main menu. So core is sort of the driver for the whole program. It is meant to decide which screens to show when. So if the game pauses, there could be an opportunity for it to call out, hey, game is paused, show pause screen kind of thing. And the core one would drop it over. The game is paused. But the game doesn't control the pause, necessarily control the system pause screen. The game doesn't control main menu. So we don't have to worry about contaminating like the main menu with knowledge of the game state. We don't have to contaminate the game state with knowledge of, like graphic settings. So we'll keep the shell of that in place, just for now. What this will probably amount to is just the input handler. I think that might only be on main menu. We'll put the input handler in core for now. That is, if you press escape and it's unhandled, kick them out of the game for now. That will make it so that we don't have to worry as much about that we won't have to worry at all about getting out of the program. Since the main menu has been a placeholder, we're just going to discard that for the time being. I do want to make sure I don't have many like vestigial code areas that, we'll just put this in place for the time being, because if I have to revisit it and completely rewrite it, not a lot of worth writing it for the time being. Like, if at the time I'm creating it, I know it's just there to be rewritten, that's not a great place to be. So, this means that we won't be showing the game fully functional for at least a little bit today at best. Well, functional at all in a testing way. A couple of buttons here. Yeah, there we go. Okay. You're going to make just an archive folder for the time being. We're going to keep the art folder where it is. There's no conflict there. We'll have all of our CS files still to access. We'll pull them back over in just a moment. Yeah, I think we can just get the whole out of it. This generally makes the Godot or GD script. This can often make it pitch a fit if you're using a lot of resource files with references to them. I don't know, maybe they fixed that in 4.3, but that was rapidly becoming a problem when I was trying to use resource files. Okay. So we're going to have our new core. We want to do this. I don't want to keep anything separated if I can avoid it. I'm sorry, any paired objects like scenes in the code for them need to be paired together. And I don't want to have too many top-level folders for organization. I think... So we're going to have... We have the game itself. So this is game logic. We're going to create a folder for core just to keep it separate. Then let's just say menus. We'll keep that in place. We won't be doing anything with menus for now. Game is going to be one of the most complex ones. Core is ideally very small. No, don't add a new script. We are going to go in and add a new scene. It's the main scene, and within core, add a script to it that is core.cs. Void score. Oh. I wonder if there's a plugin for Godot IntelliSense on this. Well, hey there, Viking. Or would it be Doug? Either way, welcome, welcome. You're joining us pretty much just at the start of this broadcast. We are in the process of converting our GD script based, the start of our GD script based game over to C# for performance purposes. doesn't look like we've got anything for that. So, oh well. It's unhandled input that we override that we need to call it here. Now, a lot of what's going to happen. And hello, Billboard. Hello. A lot of what's going to happen in this is going to be code on screen, which, for those of you in tall format, will be small. And my stream of consciousness as I'm coding things, I'll try to say what I'm doing. If you have questions or about me, about the stream, about what's going on, feel free to ask them. I can always stop and talk. There we go. Oh, CNC. That is interesting machinery. It's one of those things that turns into a very highly skilled and kind of valuable profession or part of a manufacturing chain. No worries there, Billboard. I know a lot of folks that swing through and just listen or, watch quietly. Okay, we're onto something. Okay, this is just an interface level. Oh, not a C# interface. This is a interface between the Godot node and the C# equivalent of it. References, I don't want that. How we do? Okay, so we have unhandled input here. Fun things to have. It's good to look into both professions that you are interested in, but also think that you are willing to enact for the purposes, willing to take part in for the purposes of gaining money. And then also to make sure that you have things that you enjoy and want to pursue in your downtime when you are not working. The adage of, a person that loves what they do will never work a day in their life is kind of a lie. If that's what you're doing for a living, often that is money that you need to live. So there is a level of stress and obligation that is associated with it that will erode what you're up to. Um, especially if you're working for someone else, but even then, but being able to look at those two things, and if they line up, that's great. But there is that difference. People that get into like art and music often have that moment of terrible realization. Hey there, Poland, where they realize the vision for their art that they have might not be what they can use initially to make a living, but that might mean that they have to do like make music or art that, while in their own style, isn't the kind of music or art that they want to do at the like on their own in the end. So maybe you make some jingles, you make some cover songs, and you use that to fund your own projects on the music side, that kind of thing. Well, thanks for swinging through, Poland. Cool. Cool. Here we go. Here we go. Bingo. Trying to find the tools. What's at event? That syntax. And that's those markers, Doug, is figuring out what kind of things you and it's both what you can do for a living, what you can do for hobbies, uh, you know, getting your life moving along and allocating resources and time. Hey, I just put food out for you, Sky. I have food dishes that avoid the problem. There's the stereotypical problem of uh, cats being, cats coming and asking for food, despite the fact that, oh, they have food, it's just pushed up against the edges of bowls. Uh, cats don't like, most cats don't like bumping their whiskers on things. And a lot of generic pet food bowls have walls that are too high and steep for the cats to get all of the food from it without bumping their whiskers heavily, like bending their whiskers. That's why they don't eat the food on the edge as much. Varies cat by cat, varies if they are how clever and nimble they are. Bob and Tom, my two first cats, big old Maine Coons, they were actually really nimble. Maine Coons are, in general, known for it. It's not a universal, but it's not uncommon for them that they will pick up food in their paws. Like they can pick up food and bring it to their mouth. Sometimes they're not exactly, we're not talking human dexterous here by any stretch, but they're prone to that kind of thing. So they would scrape food out of the dish that way and pick it up or eat it right there. But others might not, or potentially won't. So I've got these shallow food dishes. So I can look over there and there's some stuff left, but clearly he didn't have enough. Or he's just asking for chin scratches. It's one of two things with him. He's getting the chin scratches right now, and he's always pleased for that. For those not familiar, you'll be able to see about half of him on this camera. He's not big by, like, biggest cat standards as far as domestic cats, but he's my largest cat. He's big and fluffy, gray and white, and he's got that stripe down his back. So, if that's not event, no, I want that. Is that? Apparently I do. Oh. Okay, an actual event object. Don't seem to have a good input operator. I'm not familiar with Godot C#, and I haven't touched C# in a while, so some of this is going to be me relearning the language, kind of poking around in the dark. Well, in the dim light, let's say. The event. Okay. Is action pressed? Yes. Sadly, we don't have... Okay, unhandled key input event. Let's do that. Neat. I'm trying to find in GD script, it will give you the string names of this, and I don't know what this. I think it's just UI underscore cancel, but we can do that. This. Hey there, Neil. Welcome. How you doing? We're coding a game. We're at a point where it's going to be some kind of early stuff again, since it's not a full rewrite, but it's effectively a full rewrite from GD script to C sharp. Get back where we were with full performance. No luck. Well, we know it's a key event, so if is action pressed. No, no. This guy's being clingy. Yeah, here. It's like all right, let's just try. Be able to use .exit. There we go. Hey there, cats. Good to see you again. That is Mason and Sammy. Mason is the tan one, Sammy is the tuxie. Set input is handled. Odd. Okay, well, we'll just roll with that. Early stream. I'm just trying to get a jump on things. We're doing a lot of extra work. And hello, Chloe. Welcome. Yes. Oh, I think that worked. Time. Focus on window, escape. Okay, that works. Good. Good enough. That we're going to call this our game node. But how are you folks doing today? How are you folks doing? Things are going reasonably well for me. I've been missing my normal schedule not infrequently lately. But this is part of why I'm trying to get the longer streams in, such that when I do stream, there's more time for me to, do the broadcast, accomplish some stuff, show people what's going on, hang out. Plan is to run till the normal end, so about 6.25 more hours plus a bit. Maybe a little shorter. I mean, if we hit a kind of a hard block, I usually end, but we'll be going for a bit. So now we go into our archive and into our game logic. We are going to have an entity folder, and we're going to take the entity manager down here. So I try not to do this all the time, but I think it's good since I'm focusing a lot on programming. On the days that I'm not planning on doing a lot of research or trying to get a baseline done in time for a subsequent stream, I figure I might as well do the work on stream. I do recall it when it happened, yeah. So put an entity manager in here. We have constant, static, plenty of statics. Okay. So this creates essentially a global entity manager, and I think that's fine. We are going to need like a reset process in here. I think I had something for that. Mesh renderer. really rendering that we're doing, I think, but yeah, sure. The cameras I'm using are Wi-Fi capable. They are USB powered and wireless. I am eventually going to switch over to power over Ethernet cameras, more traditional like CCTV jobbies. I'm using these because they were inexpensive, better solutions than prior things. Yes. If the Wi-Fi were to drop, then so would they. These have a dedicated router, though. They have a non-internet connected dedicated router just for the cameras. So if the Wi-Fi for those goes down, it's probably because of like a brownout or something. Though as long as the internet doesn't go out, it would knock out the stream. The cameras would just go dead for a bit. But you'd probably, pause the display of the stream, do a quick AFK and fix them. Make a specifically shaders folder for this. One of the reasons that we're doing this conversion is it's a lot easier to have, well, at least I find it a little bit easier to have these concepts of, I'm just going to create a singleton. I don't need to worry about it living in a scene or similar. Like, the entity manager doesn't need to be a node. Right now it uses physics process, but most likely what I'm going to do with this guy is make it so it is something that is called during the game loop. Is the game will say, hey, physics tick time. So it will call into the entity manager and say, go, do a thing. What that can allow me to do is have alternate control to the pace of time in the game. So you could have things like slider for how fast real world or process time is going versus how fast game time is going. It's also just a good way to handle like a pause state that doesn't rely on Godot freezing all of the other states. This is a bullet heaven style game. There will be like frequent decisions to make as far as how upgrades unfold, and I would like there to be a longer term, getting more into the later elements of it. I would like there to be a sort of narrative weight to some of the decisions. Like, if you start taking these upgrades, things start getting different. Anyhow, So we have mesh render. It extends node 2D. Now mesh render needs to be a node 2D. Okay. Let's make sure that that happens. No, we don't want any of these open. Still be good here. Okay, so we need node 2D, and it shall be called. We should make another scene here. It extends node 2D and it shall be called mesh renderer. That, then we will append the mesh renderer script just right there with it. Make sure we get the same name. Load that up. There we go. It's a node 2D when it renders. Great, great. Casting of Frankenstein, that is the Dead by Daylight spin-off thing, isn't it? Also take texture wrapper. Yeah, it's a catalog object. Catalog. I was using this CS prefix as a C# iteration of the class, and that's part of the reason that we want to get away from that as smoothly as possible here. Probably going to do is temporarily we'll call that change its name. Okay. So if we go into our game object now, what we're going to do is in that one. Okay, we'll make a new scene for the game itself. Now, I would say in a horror game, you can have 0 jump scares. I've played some pretty good ones that don't have that. But, your other criticisms imply that jump scares being present would have potentially redeemed some of the other stuff. Yeah, heavy narrative engagement kind of games like that, they really need to sell their characters, and if they're going to present you with choices, it should mean something when you do it. As much as I want to like Dead by Daylight and the associated stuff, I feel like they're not delivering on the vibe, Game-wise, it's okay. It's okay. I think it could be better. It's kind of a shame that a spin-off thing like that didn't deliver, because the setting has a lot of room for narrative, and kind of embodying that, instantiating that as a standalone game would have been cool. Scene, and this is the game scene. Scene has a game CS that extends a node 2D. Yes. Physics process. Yeah, it's with... Horror is one of those genres that has trouble defining it, that it's vague. It really needs extra descriptors to tell you what kind it is. Like, slasher movies are a particular type of horror. They often rely on jump scares and explicit violence. Psychological horror can be a lot more subtle. Psychological horror is one that people, I feel like they often miscategorize. Scary and intense does not psychological horror make. But lots of sub-varieties within that. I feel like jump scare is a modifier for horror. It's jump scares are a particular thing. And if it's focused around jump scares, some people don't like it. I own neither of those. Let's see. I've played an Xbox 360 and a PS3. And of course, prior consoles. PS2, PS1, various Nintendos. Some of the Sega consoles. An Atari at one point. I got to play the infamous E.T. game in its era. So the first thing we're going to do is call entity manager. Go into entity manager, and it's not going to extend node. do that. So, entity does, yes, makes sense. Double. And we also need movement. Okay. We're beginning the cascade of making sure that all of the variables line up as we move the new objects around into the new structure. It's reasonable to have movement in its own folder, same with positioners and spawn points. Yeah. So that's a Godot vector 2. We're using a Godot vector 2 because it translates over. We actually need to apply it, but I don't know. It wants vector 2s in places, so we should just keep using vector 2s, which means we want floats when we go into this. All right, we'll just convert it to a float here. Not ideal. That could result in some truncation, but quite frankly, if our delta reaches the point that you actually need a double to contain it, or let's say it exceeds a float, there's a problem. And the idiosyncrasy of the float like rolling over or something like that is the least of our worries, I think. Okay, so when it runs, when the game object springs into existence, as its physics process begins ticking, it will call the entity manager's physics process. Entity manager being just something that exists. It is a singleton out there in the void. The mesh manager, the thing that renders the entities, is going to exist only within the game scene. And this is where we've got a wrinkle, is the entity manager is technically native to the scene. I feel like it might be necessary for us to have a kind of a scene anchor to the entity manager that is the that is the thing that actually contains entities. But, oh, there's some wiggle there. It might ultimately just be that we need to make sure that something is containing it, something is keeping it under control. It's currently a singleton because a lot of things need to know about entities, and there's no reason to have multiple entity managers. No reason to keep all of them like separate or something like that. Could we? Yes. Would it be a burden? Oh boy, yes. But I mean, it's distinctly possible that we could, instead of having multiple mesh renderers, we could have a series of them, and each one of them goes after a different target entity manager. Then, instead of a static, there's multiple, and that multiple could be that you ask for them. Hey there, Sonia. Welcome, welcome. Hope everybody is having a good day today. And that's a way we could do it. Because, no, the only place that would really benefit is in the mesh render. And the mesh render doesn't care about different types of thing, it cares about textures. And I don't want the entity manager caring about textures. Okay, we'll leave it as is for now. We just need to make sure that the game tells the entity manager to, flush its stuff out now and again. Oh. How do we get this here if this isn't a node? It doesn't need a render, it's just a node. No. That's how it can get the render. Okay. Mess this up so quick now. This is the game object. The game object has a mesh renderer. And then the core scene. For those that aren't familiar, we are working on a game in the Godot engine, Godot 4.3 at the moment. And what we are doing is our game object. That needs a game object attached to it. Instantiate one there. It is a bullet heaven style game. You're not going to see a lot on screen when I'm touching the Godot engine at the moment. Most of it is going to be living in C#. We're trying to get as much of it into C# as we can. Keep everything nice and trim. Once we've decided that we're using C#, I want to stay in there almost entirely, because trying to translate data passage between the two and interact with objects between the two is kind of messy. So we're just not going to do that. Mesh render. Build. CS. run and debug, where it's just build. This project. I do need to look at stuff in VS Code a little bit, find out what the keys are. Entity move. Double into a double. Okay, it worked that time. Why it worked that time, I don't know. Here you go. That's the shader. Save. Does it work? And let's go over here. Go into welcome back. Does not extend node. Catalog is absolutely a singleton in this. There's no reason that we would ever need to rerun the catalog as far as the system is working. Everything that possibly could exist gets loaded at this stage. Process. At the moment, we're trying to get up and running as far as showing some of the behavior again. We're in the process of rewriting some of the stuff. If you saw any, like the latest progress update where we had the little blob spreading out from the center of the screen or from the screen, that was an initial test within our actual game project of the conversion to C#, which is what we're doing right now. I'm trying to get it back to that point where that's operating, and then we'll continue branching out from there. Excellent. Camera is off center. Normally what we're going to end up doing is we're going to put the camera at 0, 0. I do need to figure out if I can just create the camera in code and have it sit there. Yeah, the code is set up to create like 10,000 of these little guys. What I don't want to have to do is I don't want to have to interact with the camera outside of code here. We need to make sure that that is an object that we can easily interact with. So what we'll do is within game scene, we are going to create a camera. It'll be fine at that point, and then within the game code, export. Typing. Okay, camera. So about public camera. Okay. How did you do that? Oh. Oops. Has to be in the class. Sure. Rebuild. Game, it's camera object. We say camera there so that we're able to move the camera around. Okay, this is pretty much where we were last time, but we have fully re-implemented it full C solution instead of having like shimmed some C# kind of alternate classes in. Hello, Sherbet. Sherbet has come to join me on my headrest. Get a beverage here. Now, for those of you watching on the tall format, there is a pinned link to the widescreen if you want to be able to see more of what I'm up to. But yeah. So this is, let me see here, how many of them are we generating? $15,000 blobs. Every tick of physics, which is, I think, 30 times a second. Each one of them is having 10 different operations performed on their movement. Those 10 different operations, each of them has a direction, and they're set to move at effectively each one of these blobs is a 16 by 16 sprite. So they're all set to move about 96 pixels per second. But each of those individual movement operations is in its own random direction. And those 96 pixels of movement are divided equally amongst those 10 different movement slices. So with some of the blobs, they don't seem to be moving very much, and others are moving more tangibly. One of the things that I did offline is, if you look, all the blobs are bouncing at different paces or at different moments. I made a change to the shaders so that they are operating, that their animation plays offset based on which instance they are. So like the fifth one to be created will be offset more than the first one to be created. Kind of literally like that. It's time in seconds plus their instance ID modified by, or mod 6 with some extra wiggle in there. Okay. Got that in place. This is not what will actually happen, and I think this is where having essentially a shell for the entity manager, I think might be a good idea. This is ultimately the same thing. Feels like a hack, So we're going to have things like just the posture a bit here. How many cats do I have? I have 5 cats. Let's see how many we can spot. Should be able to see 4 of them at the moment. So we have Sky up in his cat tree. We have Ember across from my keyboard. Sky is the one with like he's up in a cat tree. He's a fluffy gray and white one. Ember is the one with the orange ear there. Sky is the biggest one. Ember is the smallest. That camera is just zoomed way in on her. Then on the bed, at the top is Mason. He's the tan one with some white. And Sammy is the tuxedo, the black one with white. Sammy is second smallest. Mason is second largest. Sherbet, Mason's brother, who isn't visible, might be kind of north of Sammy, essentially. Just off camera. That's one of the places he lays down. But he is the middle-sized one. He is a much more irregularly modeled tan and white. Like static. This is one of the spots that is tricky. I'd kind of like to keep entity creation isolated, but I think we can just do it. So one of the patterns that we have is that the catalog essentially creates an instance of the object. So if we look at catalog, for the textures, when it loads the textures, we have a bunch of texture wrapper objects that it creates. Those texture wrappers get passed around. These are essentially simple types. They're just wrappers around a couple of variables. Movement objects and entities are much more composite. So when we load up a movement or we load up a positioner or anything like that, we create a copy of it and we keep it in the catalog. Subsequent retrieval from the catalog has it return a copy. So this wrapper is equal to this one. Now, I think since we made that a struct, I think that's fine. I know there's a bit of he kind of shot up in popularity initially on TikTok and shifted towards YouTube. Dylan Hollis does a lot of short form cooking things, and he does them from old cookbooks. From various eras, you know? Not quite 1860s, of course. So I think when something wants to add an entity to the manager, it's fine that it just passes an entity and that the manager takes that. Add the entity. We're going to call this a Boolean because this can fail. I've seen some videos and whatnot of book rebinding where they take either it's just because a person wants to update it, make it new and different looking, or because it is a book that is essentially falling apart and it needs a new binding, like the process of doing that. That kind of restoration work is kind of interesting to watch. Similar with painting restoration. That is a complicated and involved process. We're going to say Boolean added to false. Return added. Added is equal to true here. Technically, we could have some condition later that is, yeah, I tried to add it, but I still failed, That doesn't happen at the moment, though. This might get turned into a read-only because nothing else should be messing with the entities. They can look at them, but the entity manager should be the one that is actively interacting with them, adding to the collection. So functional, Godot is not pitching a fit. Sharp not pitching fit. This is good. Okay. A lot of this logic of like how big the screen is, that kind of thing. I am going to make a singleton for some of the features. Twofold. Just gonna take a moment here. Well, that's rude of it. One moment. Feeling that bit of the code. Kick a program over here. Not talking. You're not missing anything. Come on now. There it is. Gonna do a quick commit here. And then I'm going to get up and move around a little bit. And we're back. As usual, Mason got up to intercept me on my way back to my chair. He tends to go and loaf up in my path. There he is coming back, with the hopes that I will kneel down and give him back scratches. Okay. So one possibility here we could get basic targeting in place. I could get the shell of targeting in place, which is just to do things like return what the target entity is and which direction to use. I feel like we have an opportunity to simplify there, because we had some real complexity in place. We could potentially just have variables that we set in them that allow them to know what to target. Because some of the duplication that I was doing didn't really need as much complexity as it had. We'll see. We'll see. Let's start that down that road. Targeting is technically separate of movement. Targeting can also be used during the spawning process in order to determine which way, what is the base facing of an entity. So if all of the targeters say look to the left, that means the entity's default facing is left. It's possible that all subsequent movement would alter that, but it's a decent starting point. It's fine if we use this. Godot object. Movement is a Godot object. Game is a Node 2D. It has a spatial concept to it. Okay. And again, folks, if you have any questions or anything like that, or just want to chat, feel free to do so. You're not going to interrupt me. Most of what you're hearing is stream of consciousness. It is just what I'm thinking about or what I'm currently doing. So it's not as if you're going to break focus or something. Well, technically you will, but that's just fine. Targeter, that's what we... So we would have... Technically, there's two different targets that are part of any targeter. There is a direction, and there is an entity. Oh man, there could also be a point. Okay, we're just going to stay with the idea of entity and direction for now. But I do like the idea of having a point that is the target. Something that would be like, go to this spot. For example, it might go to where an entity is. And if that entity subsequently moves, that was still the target. It will go there. We would need... speed. Theory, something could set it outside, but I don't want something to set it from the outside. I only want to have a get for it. Or pivot. Entity. Okay, so you can only access the entity through this. It will return this variable. We're going to mess with this variable internally. Simplify this down. And we can just collapse that. Okay, good. It's a struct. direction. Those don't need a full new line for them. There. Maybe I'll look at that. There are some coding patterns that have that kind of were instantiated after my time learning this. So gotta find time to do some reading. There are some good websites for things like design patterns. Some of them I am using without knowing their names, just because I've encountered that kind of thing before. So the goal of update targets is to go through and say, hey, if you need to change anything, do it. So this would be something that gets overridden. It's virtual, isn't it? So update targets. This is something that a child class is going to have to do something with to know what it's supposed to do, you know? Then internally, I don't think we need all the footwork that we were doing as far as, do I need to update the object? Should I update the object? That kind of thing. Because each one could then just decide, hey, if I get most of the ones that get called to update targets are probably going to do it once. They're going to say things like, if I don't have an entity, get an entity. And then from then on, it might be like, keep aiming at that entity, or keep aiming in the direction that I was initially going. That kind of thing. We'll see, though. We'll see. Okay, we had a concept last time that was offer. I think the name isn't great. I think it's still fine. Well, I think we want to do one at a time. So what happens is that at any time kind of want these to be ensured that you do them all at once, though. But it's awkward if I only have one thing to offer. No, I think what we could do is offer 2 and then have oh, we end up needing the individual functions. So how are we going to do this? Oh, okay. Instead of offer, we're going to do say the update from, or is a terminology question. I want to make sure the functions are as readable as possible. So update targets is us saying like, okay, now perform your logic in case you need to change targets or directions. So from a flow perspective, like that one comes first. What we're going to do is we're going to say this was the last targeter. Do you want to use, like, take anything from it you want to use? So that targeter would then invoke entity and direction. It would pull data from those and say, okay, do I want to use those? For example, right now we have target random direction style logic, not the actual implementation of it long term. Placeholders, I said I didn't want to do them, but I know I'm going to make the real one of this, so it's okay. So for target random direction, if a prior target random direction exists, the workflow that or at least the flow that I had previously set up was that a target random direction would accept a direction from a prior one and say, oh, you've already generated a direction, I can use that one. I might not keep that, but we'll see. But more particularly, we have the idea of a, like, move towards the target. Well, if it's saying target player with one and target enemy with another, those are different styles of target. And target player would say, no, I don't care about any other targets. I'm targeting the player. So, I don't care if you give me a target. But target random monster might look at that and say, if that's a monster, then I'll target that because you've already supplied a random monster. Or you've supplied a monster for me to use. I don't know how you got it. But whichever monster you chose is random enough for me. That kind of thing. Yeah, I think this is viable. Update from, then update targets. See how this goes. There's potential attraction to just say that targeters don't care about each other. As in, if one movement says target random monster and the second one says target random monster, you need to hope that they both target different random monsters. But I'm not as fond of that because it makes it more likely that you will find combinations that break, that they perform badly, like intrinsically badly. Home to two different things does not work. They fight each other very strongly. So the ability for it to strike a target in that case becomes very low. It also limits our ability to do things like if the first one loses its target and now is no longer supplying the target, the second one could subsequently say, oh, I need to find one now. That kind of thing. Okay, if that's the case, I think this would be better. Targeter, previous targeter. There we go. Okay, so this says you have to give me a prior one or nothing. The goal being, if this is supplied, work with it. We can do it this way. This because there's always going to be a delta. You have to give it a delta. But the targeter might not be something you supply. If it's the first one, there is no previous targeter. But that means that we should always say, if this isn't null, do that. So instead of this being... No. An override. I think it could be protected. Yeah. Okay. Have that. And that will have the same parameters here. Why would... No, I don't need to do that. So I was thinking like, oh, we should always say, if there's a previous targeter, then call the other thing. But... doing something wrong with this. Oh, it's not an override. It's is it virtual or abstract? It's abstract. Oh, no, actually, it could be virtual. If you don't override it, it does nothing. Hey there, Fraggy. Welcome. Yeah. If you don't override it, it does nothing. Which would be weird, but does nothing, then these never get values set. How are you doing today, Fraggy? How do we want to do this? I think everything has to update this in some way. Abstract. Could make it virtual. Abstract would be more towards an interface. I mean, I could have effectively iTargeter, but these are part of Targeter. It is a parent class. References, yeah. You never actually instantiate a targeter by itself. Could it? We'll keep that. That seems reasonable. For those that want to see where we are. Let's take a quick moment here. This is like we had in our little status update recently, but this is our current stage in the core project. We are actually converting the core project over to use the updated logic, where we can get to 15,000 of these little guys bouncing away, which should mean that we have a lot more room to do things like the collision detection, navigation logic, all of that goodness. So we are touching as little GD script as possible. I am concerned that my voice is getting a bit ragged. But yeah. Okay. So when we implement a targeter, we have to say, you have to do something to update the target. And it will also handle how it does the previous targeter, that kind of thing. Which means it can ignore it. It can make use of it. It might extract some pieces from the other one. And then it will take action based on the delta that it receives. The implementations of that class may have things like timers on them, that kind of stuff, that need to also be edited from the catalog. Yeah. Which means targeters can have discrete types instead of having a whole pile of delegate functions that make it harder to debug. That sounds good to me. If we create a new file, this is target random direction CS. Let's use a template here. No, we're going to say cancel, save, build. Let's go extend targeter. Fills in some of this stuff for us. So it extends targeter, which means it has to have an implementation of update targets. Just so. Protected. Private means only this class can change it. Public means anything can change it, even outside. I'm sorry. If it's private, only this object, this instance of it, or you can only edit it from within an instance of this class if it's private. So a targeter specifically, not a target random direction which extends that. If it's public, not only can I mess with it in all of the child classes, I could also mess with it from outside the class. If it's protected, everything with underneath the umbrella of that class, including child classes, can edit it, but not from outside. Okay. So if direction is the same as vector 2, 0, then we are going to say that we have an integer degrees to rand. Yeah, here we go. Feel like we might need to have a universal random seed as well. But for the time being, no, okay, we're passing in int, so it is explicitly using an integer version of it. Okay, that's good. That's good. No, actually, no, we want the double. There we go. Because degrees can be fractional, as technically fine as 360 degrees would be, we don't want it to be too kind of... We don't want the slices to be as big. Divided by 180. This will give us the degrees in radians. And we say direction is equal to vector 2 right rotated by radians. So if we do not have a direction, if it's 0, 0, then we are going to take the right angle, which is a unit vector. It has a length of 1, and we're going to rotate it around that many degrees. I kind of like the idea that random direction doesn't care what else is going on. A target entity one would, but target random direction doesn't care. Yeah, that sounds good. Okay, so now if we go into our raw movement object here, instead of this, we're going to have a target random direction targeter. Movements don't care about prior movements, but targeters care about prior targeters. So passing in the prior movement seems irrelevant. So what I'm faced with here is that when an entity is being told to move, seems extraneous. Like, I don't need to have this is the overriding thing. Oh, no, I can have this. There we go. Delta. Just so. So when a movement is told to move, you have to pass in whatever the previous targeter was. And the targeter will be told to update the targets based on the previous targeter before we call into move. Direction. So then in previous simply null. Actually, targeter. Previous targeter. previous targeter is equal to movement targeter. Movement, and we have targeter here. Public targeter. Yes. So. And this should totally work. Oh. For the purposes of this test, we have to do that. And there has to be a targeter. There should always be some sort of targeter. We can have a target nothing targeter. But we should always be asking it, like, what direction is it? That kind of thing. It makes it more fluid as far as us plugging prior ones in, that sort of thing. There we go. Also then in game have a child node, which is a label. And this label can have a... we're going to make a... folder. It's going to say user interface is too broad. Let's use HUD. It's going to be in HUD, and we'll just use label. Oh, yes. think it's text is what we want to call it. Draw. What's this? Text is equal to system. Did we call it in base version here? Archive. Engine.get frames per second. Okay. This label. Theme. Very tiny and hard to see. Override. Outline color. Line size. Should be a way to pin this. think I need a container here. Child of control. Box, it's more of a layout thing. That. It's not specific to that. It's got to be specific to this one. Canvas layer. There we go. So this is frames per second. You can also have entity manager. These. Okay, so frames per second, number of blobs. Now, previously, we would have tanked our frames per second around 2,500. So post our C# change, we've already breached 10,000, still holding at 60. First dip generally happens pretty soon. Nope. So post 1,500. I mean, I'm feeling pretty good about that. This is 0 FPS loss. Now, we could... bounded... common... So, we have 30. If we undo that, it's 60 and 8 frames per second. We don't need that kind of movement precision, I think. But let's see how 60 physics frames up to 8 times a visual frame influences this. You get much smoother movement the more physics frames you do. It also makes them load in faster. Okay, it hitches a little bit faster. There's no need for us to go this swiftly. But what that means is that we're going plenty fast right now. We can drop it down to 30 physics frames with, extra frames per update frame. That should be fine. So we could set that down to 30. But what we are letting it do is have multiple updates per visual frame. All it means is that we're ensuring that we're going to get those 30 as swiftly as we can. Yeah. Okie dokie. We'll revisit that. That's fine for now. That is quite literally a testing object. So now in catalog, we need the idea of load movements. So the movement is not... Oh no, movement is... Hello, Worst. Hello. And welcome. Yeah, the movements are specific to that. Okay. And, that there. Have I mean, as you perceive it, I guess. direction. Otherwise, welcome. We are working on our game dev project. There. Shifting our code language from GD script over to C# for performance improvement. Yep. We're still not to gameplay. We're working on getting as many things on the screen as possible to ensure that we don't hit a frame per second issue early. We've been able to reach, with the update, we've more than 6 times better performance, I think, as far as things we can render at the same time. Oh, things we can render at the same time doing as much as they are. Just things that can exist. The rendering wasn't really a bottleneck before. Got some little flaw in the code that's making it stop at just short of 15,000. Just a logical flaw. I think it's less than or equal to that to get it to trigger. Yeah. Yeah, 60 frames per second at that should be more than enough. So we're at the kind of the engine stage of not really the engine, the bones of the system. I planned on going longer, but I think I've only got a little bit longer in me. Something's going on vision-wise. So seems to be, a symptom of other stuff. So we'll be stopping shortly before anything takes a turn that would disrupt the stream. Okay, so we have targeter. No, not. String and targeter. Okay, so we're going to create a new target random direction. Say this. New target. We can keep it as simple as this. That'll help. Sunfish, it's moving along. It's moving along. We're getting more and more of the code converted over to C# here. We're working on getting the random direction movement into our catalog so that we can start constructing entities just from the catalog entirely instead of defaulting some stuff into them. We'll see how that goes. As was shown earlier, we can get up to 15,000 things with 10 different movement operations happening. Now, albeit they are very simple movement operations, but even 10 very simple ones when we were in Godot script was enough to bring the thing to a halt at about 2,500 objects. Not to a halt, but it would drop to like 30 frames per second and plummet from there. Now it's between 15 and 20,000 that it starts to drop down. I think it's past 20 that it hits like 15 and lower frames per second. Which should mean, what I'm hoping is that we can stay in this kind of neighborhood. Maybe, down to 10,000 if we add collision and navigation in would be just fantastic. But we don't know yet. Okay. So, movement. Oh. It's key. Correction, then we're going to add that as movement to not new. We're not in Godot script right now. Well, hey there, Rebelio. Welcome back then. Hey there, Isaac. Well, thank you, Rebelio. I appreciate the compliment. Good opportunity to switch over. We can see 4 of them clear. Oh, no, all 5 are visible. Man. Okay, so Ember's in her classic spot across from the keyboard. She's a little gray, white, and orange one there that's laying against a kind of a whitish object. And then we have Sky, Sammy, Mason, and Sherbet on the bed. We have Sky on the gray blanket, Sammy on the big squishmallow, and then Sherbet and Mason are cuddled up together on the tan blanket. Zoom in a bit for those on the widescreen. If you do want to watch in widescreen format, there is a pinned comment at the top in chat that should lead you there. Feel free to ask, Rebelio. Feel free to ask. How do we want to be able to edit the targeter cleanly? I think a movement can't come into existence without a targeter. Or at least with the opportunity to set it. So I feel like this is a good way to create it is to force it to be passed in. And then it can be daisy chained up as we need to. Unity is actually a good one to start with, but I know what you mean as far as the user interface. I find myself liking Godot if you are making something simple, if you just want to start out and make kind of your first game kind of thing. Godot is pretty good for that. I am told Game Maker Studio is, I think it's called Game Maker or Game Maker Studio, something like that, is a solid one as well. It's supposed to be really good for like 2D games. Unreal Engine is probably off the table. That is a much more complex system. It expects a lot more of you as far as the user interface and the coding language that you'd want to use for it. So some like Godot or Game Maker maybe, but there are a lot of options out there. There are a lot of them out there for like trying out game dev. If you just want a like note-taking app or something like that, you could do that in just about anything. Like you could do that in HTML pretty easily with like a back-end kind of thing. So the sky's the limit, but I know that Godot could definitely do that. I'm not familiar with Game Maker, but yeah. For beginner projects and the like, where you're just doing something simple like that, the sky is the limit. It really is. There are all kinds of engines out there. Those two are what I can think of off the top of my head. Yeah, it's skill sets to explore. If you're looking for something that is like a packaged engine, then there are options out there for that. Okay, so we're going to say targeter. Targeter is equal to really new targeter. That's not. This is just a targeter. So then in entity, we're not going to add the movements here. That's okay. Just going to call this a base movement. That base movement, for the time being, for testing purposes, is going to use the targeter's direction. So do this, and it's get a targeter. So load targeters. We're going to make sure that that is listed and executed before load movements. We could like daisy chain them within the load things to force it, but hey there, Chaos. Welcome. I'm glad you could make it. Okay, so we need a get for each one of these. E, which is called E. That. No. Sunfish, yes. All of the little animated robots and blobs and mice and whatnot that I currently have, I did make myself. Uh, Rebelio, it can be very interesting. For the most part, they, like, as you can see there, they all have kind of their own spots. Uh, it's usually when I'm like going to bed, like going to sleep or getting up, like initially awake, that I start to get swarmed a bit. We're continuing our conversion of our GD script code to C# code, Chaos. We had a pretty massive performance improvement from initial testing, and it's carrying over into more into practice. So this is not a instantaneous process by any stretch. It's kind of rebuilding everything while looking at what we had. One of the advantages of doing this, in addition to the benefits that we were aiming for, is that it also gives us an opportunity to cut away some of the prior decisions that we made. Like, at the time we thought this was the best solution, but it turns out that it wasn't good, or it wasn't effective, or wasn't needed, or something like that. But we were so far in that it was more difficult to go back and change it. It's easier to get there. Well, it's not. It's not too difficult, but it would have been a hassle to go back and change it at the time. Well, since we're remaking a bunch of stuff, let's clear out some of those old decisions. Turn. Target. Sure. Get if kind of thing. Try get value. Nah. Just do it the crude way first. Change the key. E. Then targeter. Targeters. Well, good luck there, Rebelio. Targeter. Entity. We're not going to do it that way. Instead, we need to make it so that when we create an entity, we set its movements. There's a whole lot more to entity, but I still feel like in the constructor is where a lot of this is going to go. should just be able to say log get. Need to have a load for the move for get for the movements. Static movement. E. Oh. Movement. Contains the key. Create events. Should just be able to do try get value with it then. Let's get that. Okay, yeah. Haven't encountered this pattern in a while. Not like this is a weird pattern. It's more of like that's not where I've been for a bit. Okay, this should work now. Okay, they're not moving. Oh. Helps if you add it in. Well, it would help, but apparently not yet. Sure, getting that air still right. Yep, okay. So the problem is the movement that we're getting is... We're not getting that key. Oh, okay. Okay. Load movements. No worries there, Chloe. Or is it Chloe? But no worries either way. So we have load movement and load targeters, load textures, and only load textures is called. The order of these is important. Its movements rely on targeters existing kind of stuff. Okay, they're all going the same direction. I have to assume it's because the random number seed is uniform. Effectively, I'm calling for a random number during the process, but I think we're getting the same one over and over here. Click, escape. Look in our target random direction. We want to get to the point where the blobs are going all over the place. So this random range here, I think needs something else. You shouldn't be doing this here. This is super wasteful, to my understanding. Yeah, we're still getting the same result here. Need... How about in... Let's see if that changes things there. Oh. So what's going wrong here is that every time we're calling random range, we're getting the same thing, I think is what we're getting. Oh. No, I know what's going on. It's we don't have a clone logic here. So in the catalog, we have a whole bunch of, hey, we're going to create it, we're going to load it in here. But target random direction right now, no, this isn't update targets. This doesn't happen. Does it? Yeah, no, there's no update targets doesn't happen until we start moving. Okay. I don't feel as bad, but it doesn't really help us. Oh no. All right. Okay, so we come in here, we do random range, radians is 5.469. And we never call this again. How is that possible? This does not make sense. Oh, yeah, right here is probably the problem. Each of these, when we're getting this, this will be the same movement entity. Okay. We do this. Okay, yeah, this is where we had the concept of set template values. Where we're only passing along the values that are set in it. Okay. Each one of those needs a type coming in. I feel like this is a good opportunity for a template. Like a template interface, because set template values is just kind of across the board. So we're going to go into called bubble, right? Here. Okay. Base. Sorry, it's an interface, so. To try that. Plate. Okay, so what this should be doing for us right here is if we implement this iTemplatable, it has to be a function where we have set from template, and it has to accept a template of this type. So say for entity, it's going to have templatable, and it's going to have set from template, and type will be entity. So it will accept one, and the idea being it will copy the relevant things over, but it will create a new instance. Well, we are going to be creating a new instance of it when we load that. So we're going to create. Oh, no, we need. For this one, we need the concept of cloning, where the object spits out a copy of itself. I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that. It's okay for that to be public. Oh. No, clone would have to be implemented as well. Because clone has to set from template. So it's... We need the idea of creating a new one of the thing that we are. And then we need the concept of copying values over from another one. But I think that's just cloning it. They're just duplicating the object. So it's not templatable, it's clonable. Yeah. Its writing is unreliable. All right, it is. You never remember if you always drop the E or if there are circumstances where you don't. Okay. What this means is if they implement the clonable interface, then they have to be able to, of a given type, which should be the type of the thing that it is assigned to. I wonder if there's a way to force that. Ah, well. Maybe I'll find out later. Then they have to implement a clone function, which is meant to return one of those. So entity would be iClonable entity. So it would have to implement clone. We're doing this because there are a lot of things that implement clone. Okay. Then I'll start with movement. And it is going to implement iClonable movement. Yep, so it needs to implement clone. Right, we're not overriding because it's not virtual. Movement, new. targeter needs a clone here. Okay, this implements iClonable. So it has its own abstract that says you have to implement a clone method that returns a targetable. Okay. Okay. So then in target random direction, it doesn't implement target or clone. Targeter. So in the cloning process, we want the ability to set the values on it. But I don't know how we're going to get away with that without publicly exposing some of this stuff. No, it has to be... so we're telling it to clone itself. We need a subsequent one where we say, set your values. So we create one and then we tell that one, update your values based on the parent object. So in clonable, there's clone, but there's also we call this. So for cloning, we make a copy of ourselves, but then we have to supply the values to it. Let's see, set values from. Okay, so if you're clonable, you have a clone function, and then you have a set values from. What this means is that when something is cloned, we always create the new one, and then we should always call set values from. Technically, some things won't do that, but I kind of don't like that we have this, is that clone should always be calling. Yeah, I think we can do this. Can we actually? What's the C# marker for self? Oh. this. We do this. Okay, there we go. Should also be more careful with some of these. It's unclonable. Okay, so if it implements iClonable, it will have a method called clone that will return something of the type that is clonable. To do that, it's going to call its internal function here. This should work. Doesn't need to implement that, I think. Yeah. Click targeter. Okay, so targeters will have a clone internal, which is private. Also needs a set values from. It's protected though, shouldn't it be? Nothing else. It should just be clone this. Targeter. It's the same pattern here, template. So. Those aren't public. I don't want to have multiple inheritance going on here. Not sure how I want to structure this. I think we're moving in the right direction. But it's not quite right, you know? There's something about how we need to consider how to implement this differently. Because we need a way to get the value set on one of these objects, but we don't want to have to publicly expose this in order to implement it. Because this is meant to be a private internal function that they have to implement as a private function. Nothing should be calling this from the outside. They should be calling this one. Same way, this one shouldn't be called from outside. There should never be a scenario where we take the values of one at any point other than its inception, you know? I think I'm starting to wear down a little more than expected, folks. Not too surprising. Some of the medication didn't work well last night, so hopefully tonight will be better. As per usual, I will post the next stream as soon as I know when it's going to happen. Buttons. There we go. There we go. Blanking on which buttons to press. I hope everybody had a good time tonight. We're making a lot of progress. We are converting quite a bit of stuff over, and as we were seeing at the end there, we're getting a lot of opportunities to revise our code for readability as well as ease of extension. We'll see how this unfolds as we go, as per usual. It's less seat of our pants as it was before, but it's still pretty much that way. But yeah, in any event, if you like what you saw and would like to see more, remember to like, follow, subscribe, all that goodness. Helps the channel grow and helps you find similar content in the future. With all that said, I hope you have a good rest of your day, and I'll see you next time.